Vishnu. Hare Mustapraeshu Prabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. We're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, chapter number 16. Text number 7. Text number? Did we do 6? We finished 6, huh? Alright, text number 7. Nityasyartasya Nityasyartasya Sambandho Hi Anityo Drishyate Nishu Yavad Yashya Hi Sambandho Mamadvam Tavad Evahi Nityasyartasya Sambandho Nityasyartasya Sambandho Yanityo Drishyate Nishu Yanityo Drishyate Drishu Yavadyasya hi sambandho Yavadyasya hi sambandho Mamadvam tavadevahi Mamadvam tama evahi Nisyasyartasya sambandho Yanityo Drishyate Nishu Yavadyasya hi sambandho Mamadvam tavad evahi Nityasyartasya sambandho Hi anityo drishyate nishu Yavadyasya hi sambandho Mamadvam tavad evahi Nityasya, of the eternal. Akasya, thing. Sambandha, relationship. He, indeed. Anitya, temporary. Drishyate, is seen. Nireshu, in human society. Yavat, as long as. Yashya, of whom. He, indeed. Sambandha, relationship. Mamatvam, ownership. Tavat, that long. Eva, indeed. He, certainly. Translation. A few living entities are born in the human species, and others are born as animals. Although both are living entities, their relationship are impermanent. An animal may remain in the custody of a human being for some time, and then the same animal may be transferred to the possession of other human beings. As soon as the animal goes away, the former proprietor no longer has a sense of ownership. As long as the animal is in his possession, he certainly has an affinity for it. But as soon as the animal is sold, the affinity is lost. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Aside from the fact that the soul transmigrates from the body to another, even in this life, the relationships between living entities are impermanent, as exemplified in this verse. The son of Chitraketu was named Harpashoka, Harshashoka, or jubilation and lamentation. The living entity is certainly eternal, but because he is covered by a temporary dress, the body, his eternity, is not observed. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara. The embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age. Thus, the bodily dress is temperament. The body dress is impermanent. The living entity, however, is permanent. As an animal is transferred from one owner to another, the living entity, who was the son of Chitraketu, lived as his son for some time. But as soon as he was transferred to another body, the affectionate relationship was broken. As stated in the example given in the previous life, when one has a commodity in his hands, he considers it his. But as soon as it is transferred, it becomes someone else's. It becomes someone else's commodity. Then one no longer has a relationship with it. He has no affection for it, nor does he lament for it. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're hearing the child of Maharaj Chitraketu speak. The child had died, but by the grace of Narada Muni, the child was brought back to life for the purpose of giving spiritual knowledge to his father. The father of the dead child was Maharaj Chitraketu, who was a king, and he was a devotee, but he'd become very attached. He wanted a son, and he'd married many wives to get a son, and then finally he got a son, and the son died, and it broke his heart. It was so painful for him. He could not live without his son. But Narada Muni came, and Narada Muni arranged to bring the dead boy back to life. And they asked the boy to explain to Narada Muni what was happening. Because this child had died prematurely, when he's still a young child. So usually children don't die. We expect children to grow up and live a long time. But somehow the child died because actually he was given poison by the other wives of Chitraketu. So on coming back to life, the boy wanted to speak transcendental knowledge, to open the eyes of Chitraketu and to bring Chitraketu to understand what had happened, and that there was no point in him lamenting about it. So the child is explaining today about how people have commodities. They may have some gold, or they may have an animal. They may keep animals, and of course they value the animals, but they sell them off. Just like we see in India, people keep goats, right? They have a lot of goats. And of course, these goats are meant for slaughter. But people, when they have the goats, they take care of them, they look after them, they feed them regularly, they take them out for walks and so on. But then in course of time, the goats get fully grown, and it comes time for a festival, maybe like Ramadan or something, and then the order comes in for the goats, and they'll ship them out, they'll sell them off to be slaughtered. So when they have their animals and in their care, they're attached to them, but they sell them off, they let them go and be slaughtered. So this shows the kind of a relationship which people have with things in the material world. The relationships in the material world are based on the body. And the body means the senses, which want sense gratification. We want sense gratification. Our senses need that. Just like Prabhupada gives the example, you need to have salt. When you cook, There has to be some salt, but it shouldn't be too much. If there's no salt, then the taste is not good. And if there's too much salt, then the taste is also ruined. So the salt has to be just right. So sense gratification is like salt. You don't want too much, but you have to have some sense gratification. So we have to learn how to adjust that level of sense gratification. In the Bhagavad Gita, the demoniac nature is described. Pavritim cha nivritim cha janana vadur asuraha. But those who are demons, who are the asuras, they don't know what is the proper level of pavriti and nivriti. Pavriti means enjoyment and nivriti means renunciation. So those who are demoniac, they do not know what should be renounced and what should be accepted. This is the demonic nature. Just like in Krishna consciousness, we know no meat, fish, and egg, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, no nonsense, right? Prabhupada says no nonsense. And what do we need? What do we need to accept? The holy name, prasadam, kirtan, katha. We need these kind of things. But those who are demons, they don't know what to accept, what to reject. So people have to be taught. They have to be given spiritual education. Just like this child has come back to life, he's giving spiritual knowledge to the lamenting father. Now Narada Muni, and he's there, but Narada Muni, he knows all this. The boy didn't come back to life to speak to Narada Muni. The boy came back to life to speak to Maharaj Chitraketu, to guide him, understand what had happened. Because Maharaj Chitraketu was so attached. Naturally, attachment will be there for one's own family members. You get that kind of attachment. The family members. We feel so much affection for them. But they're described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as being fallible soldiers, that they cannot save us from the miseries and from the pains of material life. Because for everyone there is Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, birth, old age, disease, and death. So that is there for everyone. And the materialistic people, they are thinking the family members will protect me from old age. They will protect me from disease, and they will save me from death. But in the course of time, the family members will also die, because everyone is under the control of time. Like Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, time I am, destroyer of the world, and I come to claim all men. So the Lord comes in the form of time, He takes everyone away from their material life. Material world, temporary, it's moving under the control of time. And we are under that control of time. So we have to understand what is eternal and what is temporary. That is important for us. The eternal nature is there. We also are eternal spiritual beings, but we are covered by the material body. We have to purify our consciousness. And that way, when we purify the consciousness, then we won't have to take on another material body. Because we're not pure, that's why we've taken a material body. We're all prisoners in this world. We're all sinful people. We've come here because of our sins. And because of our sins, we're put into a particular kind of body, which is meant for sense gratification. But sense gratification can be legal and it can be illicit. We have to know what is the standard, what is proper, what is the correct level of sense gratification. People have to be taught these things, just like people don't know. They didn't know it was wrong to eat meat and fish and eggs, but they learn by hearing. So we try to preach, we try to give this knowledge to awaken people to understand the truth, to understand what life is actually meant for. And by the grace of Narada Muni, this young boy, the dead boy, the one who died, he's come back to life. And he's speaking to Narada, he's speaking to Maharaj Chitraketu. Narada Muni is also there, also hearing. But the real purpose is to preach to Chitraketu, to bring him out of his lamentation and to help him to understand the reality of the material world. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Jatashihi dhruvam mrityu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. For one who has taken birth, death is certain. Prabhupada would say, the death rate here is the same as always been. What is the death rate? 100%. Everyone going to die. We may not be dead yet. They may be 60, they may be 70, they may be great professors, they may be great statesmen or whatever, but everyone has to die. You have to give up the body. That is the law of the material nature. You take a birth, you have to die in course of time. Some people live longer, some live shorter. We have to make use of whatever time we have in this human form of life. And if we don't use it properly, the next life we take a lower birth. We don't go up, we go down. We cannot distinguish between what is good and what is bad. This is our ignorance. Who is responsible for our ignorance? We are responsible for our own ignorance. We're put into these conditions because of our past. It's because of our past activities that we're born into this ignorant condition, this material consciousness of life. But if we come to Krishna consciousness, if we give up the material and take up a spiritual path, then very quickly we can realize the nature of devotional service. Very quickly we can come to understand what is the real goal of human life and how to achieve it. It's important for us. But the common people, they don't know these things. They don't know. They're just simply ignorant people. So we want to learn from this. We want to learn from this pastime of Maharaj Chitraketu how important it is to develop our attachment to spiritual activities. Now Maharaj Chitraketu, although he had such a strong material desire, he was also a devotee. He was a very pious, religious person. It was just that for some reason, he wanted the child. And he couldn't get the child. That was the problem. So this kind of situation can often come. It may not be a child, it may be something else. Sometimes you get men, they want a wife, they can't get a wife, nobody will marry them. And then the people get married, then they want a child, and they can't get the child. Then or then they get daughters, they didn't get a son. So then it goes on. People, oh, no son, only daughter, oh no. So then all of these material desires, they never come to an end. But we have to learn the nature of the material world. That this world is meant for our misery. We have to get out from this. So this young boy is going to speak. He's speaking these words. He's cutting the knot of attachment. Right? Shastra. The word, there's the two words, Shastra and Shastra. One word is the scriptures, and the other word is the sword. Just like when Aurangzeb was in India, he sent people around, and they had to ask, will you take the Quran or you want the sword? Do you want Shastra or do you want Shastra? And some people would take the Shastra, they would be killed. Their head would be chopped off. And other people would become Muslims. Free will is up to every individual to decide for themselves. What do they want to do? Just like in China, there's this one big statue. We were in the park. There's this big statue, and it's a boat. And on the boat, there are these 8 young women. And these 8 young women, they all drowned. They all threw themselves into the water because they've been taken prisoner by the Japanese. The Japanese were taking them, to enjoy them and be nasty to them. So the 8 women, they all dived into the water and drowned. They gave up their life. It's a famous thing which happened during the wartime. Anyway, they have a big statue in the park of this, 8 women who gave up their life, jumped into the river, drowned, rather than be abused and tortured and lose their chastity. They thought keeping their chastity is worth sacrificing their life for. So in the same way, we have to have certain values. We want to value things which are important for us. We have to know what is important. It's important for us to control our mind and senses and not to allow our senses to drag us into hell. The uncontrolled mind leads the senses to perform many sinful activities because of our mad desire for sense gratification. We can engage in all kinds of sinful activities. And we're thinking this is enjoyment. But the result of all of our sinful activities is simply we will have to take another birth in the lower species of life, in the lower condition. So we have to understand the value of human life and then the value of self-realization, the importance of controlling our mind and senses and not giving in to the material desires. Certainly desires are always there. The nature of the body demands sense gratification, but we have to control these desires. We have to learn the process, and the process of controlling this mind and senses is made very easy for us by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he taught all of us how to chant the holy name. And by chanting the holy name, then we can conquer over the restless mind and the agitation of the senses. Particularly, the tongue is very important to control. Of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and difficult to control. It is very difficult to conquer over the tongue in this world. But Lord Krishna is so kind, He has given us this nice prasada. So take prasada. Don't just eat anything and everything here and there, but take the food which is offered to the Lord. Take the pure spiritual foodstuffs. And in this way, we can control the tongue. We use the tongue to taste prasada and to chant the holy name and to speak the glories of Lord Krishna. Right? We have to use the tongue. We have to eat. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said, you cannot be a yogi if you eat too much or eat too little. Right? You eat too much, you get diabetes. Many diabetic patients are there. Why? Diabetes, they say, is a rich man's disease. The rich people, they will eat more food, more opulent food, and they suffer. The result is they suffer because they didn't control their tongue. And if you eat too little, it's also not good. You get some people, they won't eat, they refuse to eat, they can't eat. And they eat too little, they get tuberculosis, you get TB patients. It's a horrible kind of disease, and it's contagious as well. You spread it to other people. So, people who have TB, they usually keep them away from everyone because it's so dangerous and it's so easily spread. So these two diseases come about because of the tongue. We have to learn to control the tongue, regulation. And regulation also in speaking. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes how there is austerity of the tongue. Austerity in goodness is to use the tongue to speak words which are pleasing to others and truthful. In this age, people are expert in insulting each other. They will say many nasty things to each other. But the mode of goodness, austerity in the mode of goodness, we use the tongue to speak words which are pleasing and truthful. It's important. Of course, in the course of preaching, sometimes we may have to say things which are not pleasing. Just like Prabhu here went to preach to one man who had been a devotee and was not coming to the temple anymore. So Rajananda Prabhu went to see him with Trivikram Prabhu, and they were preaching to him. And the man is not young. He's 72. And his business is way down. His business went way down. Right? The one furniture shop, what was it, 80% down, was it? Yeah, down to 80%. Practically no business. Because things change, everybody does shopping nowadays online. You can go on the internet and you get the best prices, you get cheaper things. You go to the shop, you pay more. So he's sitting in the shop, no business down 80%. And he's old, he's over 70 years old, and he's still sitting in the shop. What's he doing? Reading garbage books, mystic yoga, astral travel, these things, all mental speculation. So this type of person is very common, right? We'd say Prabhupada writes about Dhritarashtra. He said 5,000 years ago there was only one Dhritarashtra. But today you've got a Dhritarashtra in every home. And some of them are sitting in the shop, They're so attached, how much money is coming in. Oh, I've no business. Oh, I'm not making any money. They've been doing business 50 years. They made so much money. And they're lamenting when the business stops. They don't see the warning is coming from Krishna that you have to give up this. You have to take up the more important business. You have to get ready for giving up the body and get ready for the next life. We have to think about, where am I going to go from here? The next life. It's coming. We don't know when. One of our very nice devotees in China, a young woman, she was 51. She left the body in her sleep one night. The day before, she was talking to the devotee and she wanted to get some health food or something like that. And the next day they contacted her and there was no answer. And they wondered, what's wrong? Why not? And they called her father. And her father came around and he had a key and they got into her house, her apartment. They found her dead on the bed. She passed away in the night. And it happens. You don't know when death is going to come. You don't know when we're going to have to give up this body. Therefore, everyone has to be ready. You have to be ready. Maharaj Parikshit asked, what is the duty of one about to die? And what is the duty of all people at all time? And the answer is the same for both. It's the same for one who's about to die and for other people also. Because nobody knows exactly when we're going to leave the body. But we know one day it's going to come. We have to be ready. We have to be very serious to make use of our time in the service of Lord Krishna and to develop our attachment for devotional service. So that will give us the better life. Okay, any question? Any comment?
I want to ask, you said the purification of our soul. How do we know as we practice Krishna consciousness, we have become purified?
How do we know? Because how much we're losing an interest in the mundane and in the material. How much are we still looking at the movies? How much are we watching Netflix and what else, other things, How are we using our time? What are we doing with our time? Who are we associating with? And how much are we taking pleasure from that association? We can see how much we're becoming attached to hearing and chanting, and how much we're still attached to sense gratification. We can see how much we're becoming controlled in our senses. How much are we conquering the tongue and the demands of the mind? How much are we prone to lust and anger and greed? So these things, we can understand how much we're becoming purified. And the solution is to engage more. Just go engage more in Krishna conscious activities. Become more and more absorbed in the service of Krishna. Become more dedicated to Krishna's service. Yes.
Guru Maharaj, how if someone devotee who's like the seniors or if they're committing like Prajapa, like talking about different devotees or anyone else, how politely or pleasingly we have to let them know that we are not interested to hear. Because I find it very difficult, like sometimes someone who's higher in a better stage, when they talk, I find it very difficult to express that, just ask them not to talk.
You mean someone who's senior to you may speak some prajalpa?
Yeah.
So you don't have to listen to it. You just have to go away. Yeah. Or you can change the subject. We tell about this one man, there was this one Vamsi Das Babaji. If anybody would say to him, what do you think of the government? He would say, Govardhan? You know? So he wouldn't hear government, he would just hear Govardhan. So, like that, you know, you have to think how to change things, how to bring back Krishna consciousness. Of course, if it's somebody who is a senior and more respected, like, to be respected by you, then you have to be delicate about how you do it, how you deal with it. Don't try to instruct him, but just simply don't take an interest in what they're talking about. You know, just cover it. Take shelter of the holy name of Krishna.
As we get older and we've done, say, services all the way along for many years, and time from the point where we decided to step down from major services and all that due to physical abilities and all that. So would that be considered a fall down or a drop off because we're not doing as much?
Well, physical, if there's some physical difficulties, that has to be understood. That's not a fall down if you have some physical difficulties. Just like there was this one man, one devotee in Vrindavan, his name was Vibhu Chaitanya. Vibhu Chaitanya, he's an Indian-bodied man, and he joined the movement when they opened the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. And he was a cook, and he would cook every day. He would be in the kitchen every day, a whole day cooking, and chanting as well. And Prabhupada approved that he could cook and chant at the same time. So he was doing a lot of service in the kitchen, and he did it for many years. But his body began to age, like everybody. The body ages, and he couldn't keep doing the service. So he took up another service, and he would sit in the temple and he would give Charanamrita to everyone. He would put the spoon of Charanamrita liquid into the palm of all the visitors, and he would do it with great devotion and great respect. And in this way, he passed his days. He gave up his body in Vrindavan, and we have his tomb there in Vrindavan. So, physical conditions, of course, will deteriorate, and with the deterioration of the body, we can't do the things we used to do. But try, do whatever you can. It said about Madhavendra Puri, and Madhavendra Puri, in his old age, his body was also very diseased and difficult to take care of. But his servant, Ishwara Puri, was taking care of him, and he was helping him to remember Krishna throughout his difficult times as he left the body. The devotee, with the association of a devotee, he was able to remind his spiritual teacher about Krishna. And in this way, Madhavendra Puri could depart from the world in Krishna consciousness. So we depend on association. It's a duty of devotees to give association to people in their old age, and as they're leaving their body, we should be concerned and we should do our best to care for them and to help them to depart from the world in Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
This is a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam. Gurudev, we will try to find the English translation. I'm sorry, Gurudev, maybe it is difficult to find the English translation, so...
Hare Krishna, I was looking back at the lecture 2 days ago, and Guru Maharaj was telling a story about a man and his retarded son, and Guru Maharaj was telling a story about Srila Prabhupada, where a man went to Srila Prabhupada and asked about why he has a retarded son. And Guru Maharaj was saying that Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the retarded son was a businessman where he owed a lot of money. Srila Prabhupada had the ability to see the relationship between mother and son, father and son. Srila Prabhupada had the ability.
Well, sometimes Krishna may reveal these things to him, not every time, but sometimes it's possible that Krishna can reveal these things to his pure devotees.
Yes, this is true. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:12. So sexual desire takes 3 forms: the desire for gain, the desire to be object of adoration, and the desire for honors. Yes, Mataji cannot understand why these desires are according to sexual desires. For example, desires of honor, is it sexual desire?
Well, certainly it can be. Usually it is. The desire for honor. The people want, why would want to be honored? It's satisfying the senses. So satisfying the senses is based on the body. And the body demands that kind of sense gratification. So honor, profit, adoration, distinction, they're described to be subtle sex desires. Although it doesn't seem to be related to sex desire, but because one has the desire for these things, it leads one to have uncontrolled senses, and then that leads one into illicit sexual connections. You become degraded because the body demands pleasure, and the pleasure is there in the opposite sex. So sex desire comes about from these subtle desires for profit, adoration, distinction, love, puja, pratishta. These things are described in Shastra, that they are subtle, the subtle form of sex. In other words, it will lead us into illicit sexual connection. So one has to be very careful to guard against these things. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.